All right, Musties, we just got out seeing Jurassic World Dominion. Tons of thoughts on this movie here. Let's start with the good things, I guess. I really liked the idea of them expanding and trying to show some more natural looking dinosaurs and everything. So I don't know if the way they were portraying these dinosaurs were accurate at all. Sure, they slapped feathers on some of them, but I don't know if that actually equates to being accurate.
Okay.
But it was kind of cool seeing, these made up monster dinosaurs that we've grown up with or whatever, but also with some real ones. I loved the swamp scene. I don't think they ever even said what the name of the monster was.
It's like a ostrich sloth. Ostrich. That's it.
No, you were like Ostroslothsaurus or something.
It's an ostrich.
Okay, because it reminded you of an ostrich and a sloth combined. Yeah.
It was like a ostrich or an emu body, but then it had sloth arms instead of wings.
Yeah, it had these giant claws. I know I've seen pictures of it before in a dinosaur book somewhere, but I have no idea what it was called. But
it was a bit awkward looking, but the way they presented it, it was kind of scary. But
it was, yeah, especially because
it was an herbivore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it killed that deer, just smacked the crap out of it,
really
just because it wanted the food that the deer was eating. So I like that because, the fact that herbivores should be intimidating because they're very defensive, at least from what I can interpret in these movies. It was entertaining. I think that was a good thing. It was entertaining in terms of if you go into this movie not wanting to see a Jurassic Park movie. If you're... This was like the
whammy,
right? Yeah. We're already running out of good things here to say. They had to tie a lot of loose ends together and stuff for this because a lot of people didn't like certain things that they chose in the last movie to do for a narrative choices. I really liked the concept of the locusts being a plague and stuff, and the building off the genetic engineering things. I feel like that would be something that happens in this corrupt world, although it gets so much time dedication to the plot to get it going that I just find myself saying, what does this have to do with dinosaurs? Same thing with going back to trying to find a way to tie this human clone thing into it. It's like, what does this have to do about dinosaurs? Yeah, the dinosaurs truly take a back seat in this movie. Until the very end.
Right, they're thrust back into it at the end.
Yeah, once they got trapped in that area, it was like, okay, now we're stuck in a park again. The whole point of, the director said that, I believe it was the director or the writer or somebody said the last Jurassic Park movie, that they really didn't want to make the last one. They just had to have it to bridge the one story to the other, which is a sign of really poor writing or execution or something. You really can't find another way to work the plot around to why these people are at certain places at certain times or how the dinosaurs get somewhere.
Yeah, because you want that to naturally happen.
Yeah, and so they had the last movie. They should have used that to make this all naturally happen, but it still felt forced. I noticed they fell for the same plot hole in this movie that fans complained about in the last movie. Is in the last movie, they were trying to sell dinosaurs to some kind of military organization, and they were training dinosaurs to go after and kill anybody that the laser pointer hits.
That was the last movie too?
Yeah, that was the last movie. And so the big problem with that is okay, so you have a laser pointer on a gun. If you're pointing a gun with a laser pointer at somebody, why not just shoot them instead of actually sending a dinosaur after them? You already have them in your sights with your gun.
Isn't it a way of destroying the evidence if the dinosaur eats the person? Whereas if you shoot them, then there's a bullet hole and people hurt the gun.
Well, I mean, if a dinosaur eats the person 100%, otherwise there's just a blood splatter mess everywhere, which has DNA in everything.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of times it did make sense, because remember I kept yelling at the characters to shoot the raptors?
Because they had guns, yeah.
Yeah, the guy shot the lock off of the thing instead of shooting at the raptor's face that was just stuck there, that was trying to eat him.
I'll admit that those ones, though, were kind of ferocious in a way when they were just nipping at people and stuff and trying to chase them down the street and stuff. I'm like, oh, they're nasty little things.
Before that. They had their guns out, and then instead of shooting, they just put their guns away and tried to run away, which didn't work for some of the characters. Obviously not the main characters, because they had amazing plot armor.
But they even had that one undercover guy. He, like I said, he had that one Asian lady, right?
Asian Lady Gaga.
Yes, Asian Lady Gaga. Yes. I hate just pointing out, labeling her as just being the Asian lady, but there was no way to remember who that character was, or if she even had a name.
I'm sure she had a name.
Yeah.
Well, she did, but she was only in the movie for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. And so, but the undercover guy was like, "Yo, put your hands up," or whatever. He finally decides to use his gun. She literally reaches up behind her hair, pulls out a laser pointer, and points at the other person. Like,
that's another thing I saw coming. As soon as she started putting her heads down her hair,
yeah, like
I was like, okay, she's gonna use the laser pointer.
I didn't realize it was a laser pointer. I just knew something was behind her hair.
Yeah,
apparently.
she used the laser pointer to target.
But like, could he not see that she was like suspiciously like just twisting her head and like pointing a laser pointer behind in his direction, but at the people behind him?
Well, I mean, about all the plot holes, at this point we have like a minefield.
This was like the Fast and the Furious version of a Jurassic Park movie. Is Fast and Furious, that franchise started out with like the first movie just being like about street races, and then it finally ended up with them almost going to outer space. I remember seeing a preview of them like in a rocket car flying up into the air.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and their spinoff has like superheroes in it now too. They had that Hobbs and Shaw where they're like enhanced humans with like robotics. If you're into all that wild stuff and you don't care about the initial like street racing and Fast and the Furious, then that's great, you're gonna love it. But for Jurassic Park, I grew up on the original one, and this is not a dinosaur movie, except for like the very end it becomes dinosaurs. This is like a James Bond movie with dinosaurs thrown into it. And then it's like, oh, okay. A lot of times I said it felt like it was actually a Star Wars movie at some points. It's like that they were just visiting some weird planet almost, where like there was like puppet dinosaurs like interacting with them and everything briefly. And it was weird because like sometimes like they would introduce a certain dinosaur and they would actually have exposition, and like they had that big long neck one. I can't remember what it was called, but they were like, oh, this is like this name means the fearless dinosaurs or fear nothing dinosaur, you know what I mean? And then most of the dinosaurs after that, they didn't even introduce or explain. They just kind of showed up. It was just like, oh, what is this?
Yeah, like they did the Giganosaurus, which I'm slightly butchering the name. Of course, the T-Rex, and then that one that you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, they didn't even introduce. Well, yeah, they did say T-Rex, yeah, but everybody knows the T-Rex.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the logo of the movie at this point.
Yeah. Which I really thought they would have got. See, I know, like in the third Jurassic Park movie in the 90s, spoiler alert for this one too, the Spinosaurus actually killed the T-Rex, and fans were mad at that. But I mean, like, how long is this T-Rex gonna live for, And I mean, it's been through so many battles. I was actually okay with them putting the T-Rex down on this one, and they didn't do it. He came back and had a happy ending again.
He had his revenge.
He had his revenge.
And then he got to have a family somehow.
Yeah, his or her. Yeah, it could be a female, because a lot of the dinosaurs are female. In the very first Jurassic Park movie, they used some kind of frog DNA so it can change the sex to reproduce or whatever.
That sounds right. They
Yeah.
just be clones.
Yeah, this movie has a lot. So if you're just looking for a good time with like action, and like the original Jurassic Park meant nothing to you, or very little to you, other than just an action movie, which the first Jurassic Park movie really wasn't an action movie. It was a suspense movie with action in it, because dinosaurs are, I guess, naturally full of action in them, at least in these movies.
Action dinos, yeah.
Action dinos, yeah. So yeah, you could have a good time with this, but if you have any like connection to the original movies, this one is really painful to get kind of through, because I don't want to say necessarily the characters feel out of place compared to their original appearances, but a lot of their motivations and stuff have changed over the years. But you have Dr. Grant just agreeing to go along to rescue a baby dinosaur because Chris Pratt's character made a promise to a dinosaur. I don't see that ever happening. Like, it's hard enough to get Dr. Grant to go along on this journey in the beginning, like in any of these movies that he appears in, or except for the first one. When he appeared in the third one, and then in this new one, which is the 6th film in the series, he was totally against wanting to go back to anything to do with dinosaurs because he realizes how dangerous it is. And yet here he is just like, oh man, you made a promise to a dinosaur. All right, I'll help you out with this. Like, no, I wasn't buying that at all.
It was weird that Jeff Goldblum was the voice of reason at times. Like, he called out how silly it was that he made a promise to a dinosaur, for instance. And then he
Was that him? I thought that was Dr. Grant that said that or whatever. But
I'm pretty sure it was Jeff Goldblum because he kept making like kind of sarcastic quips.
There was a few times where it felt like he almost broke the fourth wall there and kind of just nodded at how ridiculous things were getting. But
yeah.
See, Jeff Goldblum had his character, Dr. Ian Malcolm, had this charm, but also eccentricness to him
Right.
in the original film. And then here he is in this new one, still delivering that, but now making jokes at inappropriate times, which his original character never would have, because he would still be logical enough to realize, oh man, this is some dangerous situation that we're in. There's not time for jokes, but yet, I don't know.
Well, maybe his character just didn't care,
He doesn't care about anything anymore.
Yeah, he just like, he's older and maybe he's a little wily or something. I don't know, it could just be bad acting, but maybe the character developed, but I doubt it was.
No, I think it was the writing. It was definitely, I don't think it was his acting, I think it was the writing and stuff, just telling his character to do unrealistic stuff, or say unrealistic things.
Or just become like a cartoon version of his character,
Right, definitely.
Like over the top. So, my main complaints, well, first of all, good stuff. The dinosaurs looked cool, and all that dinosaur sequences were neat. But, I felt like it was like from cliche to cliche, I almost felt like I could guess where they were going next, and oftentimes, it was exactly where it went.
Yeah.
Which, to that degree, made it feel like the characters were never in any danger.
Particularly the dirt bike jumping onto the helicopter scene, or the plane scene, that was predictable. But what else did you find predictable, for example?
Oh yeah, remember I also called the guys would end up fighting in that raptor pit, and then the bad guy would die.
Yeah, that you were right about that.
feature.
You're like, the fight's gonna end up in the raptor pit, and sure enough, that it does.
Exactly where it went.
And you were asking because that part where Jeff Goldblum's character says Dodson, and what I was trying to say was in the very first movie, they were grasping at straws to keep this in the same universe continuity and stuff of like tying it back to the original, because the guy who ran the park in the original one, the older one with the white beard, yeah, like I said, he's gone. Scientist guy, they made him the bad guy for a little while, and then he redeemed himself, which was okay. Yeah. Although I never really had a connection to that character to begin with. He was just some throwaway character in the background of the original movie, and then they brought him back in the last one.
The long-haired doctor.
Yeah, and then they brought him back in this one. I guess we're supposed to have connections because he was in the last movie. And yeah, so since they had that, this Dodson guy in the very first movie, before the plot really even gets going, they're at some kind of restaurant or whatever. The guy who, I guess, betrays the Jurassic Park company with that little Barbasol can. He tries to steal the DNA samples. He gets that original secret Barbasol can from some random guy named Dodson, who's only in there for a movie for like 2 lines or something like that. And now apparently he's the secret mastermind behind this one, just because he smuggled a shaving cream can into Jurassic Park for him.
Oh, you talking about Steve Gates?
Oh, the guy who's Steve Gates. I don't remember what Dodson is his name, but yeah, he was clearly like some what do you say, Bill Gates, Steve Apple.
I feel like a Steve Jobs.
Steve
Bill
Jobs.
Gates
Steve
slice.
Jobs is his name, not Steve Apple. That's right.
Steve Apple. Careful, you might get sued.
I'll just cut that part out. Right, yeah.
There's another thing, like the Raptors couldn't catch that 40-year-old woman jumping from rooftop to rooftop, but they could keep up with a van and a motorbike going full speed.
Oh, yeah, you got a good point about that, yeah. But I mean, also the fact that like these dinosaurs were having a hard time jumping from rooftop to rooftop and without like landing smoothly and like injuring themselves. Meanwhile, this woman apparently, she's also another James Bond just jumping across. Jason Bourne, yeah.
There's no way she didn't break all of her ribs when she landed on that railing at one time.
But right, yeah. But it was kind of funny because she fell off that staircase and landed in the back of that truck.
Yes.
And that the pilot lady got in the truck and she was like, "Hang on." And she was like, "To what?" And I thought, I imagined the plot saying to us, "Hang on," and everybody's like, "To what?" There's no way to keep up with this plot. It's just changing so fastly and everything.
Yeah.
So, really questionable CGI, and sometimes throughout the whole thing, every now and then I would see something impressive, and then I would instantly see something that looked like it was very poorly rendered, or like, you know, like the frame rate, some of the dinosaur movements felt really off. Maybe it was just also because we were watching on a gigantic screen.
Could be.
And so everything was like really blown out of proportion with the detail. Sketchy, but
yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that. I think that and its child both didn't necessarily look real. Whereas like that ostrich thing, like
that was done before. Yeah, that thing was done really well with the lighting coming in from behind his head and creating this dark, shadowy, mysterious figure in the woods. That was fantastic. Everything else was saturated with light in the daylight, and it just looked cartoony at times.
Even though, like I said, at a certain point I realized that the characters were not in danger, that scene was still kind of suspenseful. You know, when she lands
in the swamp?
In the swamp.
Okay.
Like near it, and then the clawed dinosaur kind of follows around. Like, even though I knew she wasn't going to get killed, it still felt like she was in danger. Yeah. And, like, how is she going to get out of it? So, yeah, that was a good scene. It might have been one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah. And I love how it switched at the very end, where you could see her underwater, and then the surface level of the water, and then the dinosaur's head looking right down at her, but can't quite see her.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
Just, like, daring her to come up.
Going back to Blue and Blue's baby, I was extremely disappointed as soon as, like, because in many of the Jurassic Park things, there's a lot of build-up of, like, oh, something's coming, something's happening. But no, but so many of these dinosaurs, it just showed it without hesitation. Like the Gigantosaurus or whatever it was, when they first show it, they first mention it, they just pan the camera down and show it sleeping in the woods. Like, that's not intimidating. It didn't set a very good first impression. You know, think about like the first Jurassic Park movie, whenever they said the T-Rex, when they first show it, it's not even there. It's like, oh, mysterious, it's just missing. And then when it comes out later, it's in the middle of a storm, it's just, like, it just ate the goat and everything that you just grew attached to, because you know it's trapped out there and the goat can't do anything about it. On this hand, here's the raptors and the Gigantosaurus. They're just blatantly shown. There's no build up to it. It's just like, oh, here they are. For example, Blue, like, I looked at you at one point in the movie, I was like, how dumbed down is this for kids? I'm not saying kids are dumb, I'm just saying, like, it's just like, oh, let's take like a 5-minute intermission here and see the adventures of Blue the raptor and its child just running through the woods hunting for the first time.
Oh yeah, the hunting sequence, right?
Yeah, that really felt cartoony, like, just really directed at like preschool kids. Just like, hey, here's your favorite dinosaur.
Right. And they also tried to like target like teenagers too, because like the whole intro part was like the parents fighting with the kid about trying to keep her safe, but she wants to rebel.
And then she was flipping people off and stuff.
Right, later in the movie. That felt very cliche to me too, because it honestly felt like I was watching Stranger Things. If you remember, like whenever Elle was trying to get more freedom, but the sheriff wanted to keep her safe. Like, you know, like,
yes,
I kind of get where this story's going, and she's gonna screw up and get captured.
All right, yeah. So we're back here with the mysterious Muncie lurking in the dark back here. But I did notice, like, there is no theme in this movie of like who the main antagonist dinosaur is in this. They briefly mentioned the Gigantosaurus and stuff, but it just felt like it just kept bouncing around between, oh, let's highlight this dinosaur, this dinosaur, this dinosaur, as opposed to like the very first one is like, you know, the T-Rex really steals the show and stuff. And then the third one was the Spinosaurus. And the fourth one was something called the Dominus Rex, and then there was the Indoraptor for the fifth one. This one is just a whole bunch of dinosaurs thrown at you. There's no real like last... I guess there's a last hoorah and stuff like that with the Gigantosaurus, but it doesn't feel like that was the main threat the entire time.
It was like the locusts and Steve Jobs.
You know? The main threat in this movie was locusts flying around everywhere.
And Steve Jobs being evil. Steve Gates, sorry.
I did like my joke, and you didn't seem too impressed, or you were too tired about that, because all the locusts were on fire. I'm like, you know what you call those? fireflies.
No, it was funny, but
I did like the concept of that. Like they were out in the woods and they're raining down fireballs everywhere. That was
made it
cool.
apocalyptic, like those pictures you see where like the world's ending with the dinosaurs. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I did pick up on a lot of message. Once again about corporations. Basically manipulating the market and stuff like that.
There's a lot of environmental stuff in there and like animal rights and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And just the message at the end that we all as humans need to come together. And then they show all these different types of dinosaurs and mammals and animals getting along and stuff, which I actually did like that ending. I know it's a little preachy and everything, but seeing the Mosasaurus swimming with humpback whales and stuff at the end, that was pretty cool. Seeing, I guess, Triceratops with elephants. Yeah.
And rhinos, probably.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. I really liked seeing the animals in the wild incorporate more and stuff. There's that. I will give this movie props, though, for not copying, doing another callback. There was callbacks throughout this movie of other stuff, but doing the whole water cup rippling effect as the T-Rex approaches, I was so sure that they were going to do that again. I just wish that they could have done something more original like that. Not instead of copying, just found a new way to indicate a dinosaur was approaching. That would have been something special. But I think special is the exact right word that I'm looking for here, is because when the original Jurassic Park movie came out, it was special not just to the audience, but to the people making the movie, because CGI was just breaking through and they were finding new inspiration while making the movie. I learned this from the behind the scenes stuff I watched last night of the original Jurassic Park movie. They just realized as they were making it, oh, we can now do this with CGI and stuff. And so they were rewriting things towards, I guess, some of the stuff in the end as they got better with the CGI. And so they were really inspired. Here, this is just another action flick, which I'm sure there was definitely some people behind the scenes making this who were inspired and thrilled to be in a Jurassic Park movie. But for the most part, it was just somebody's payday, felt like here's another Hollywood movie. Knock it out the park. We got to compete with superhero stuff. It was entertaining, but the magic from the original series is gone. It's just an action film. You can argue an epic action film, but it's not magic.
Yeah, between the cliches and just felt like a story that had already been told.
Look at that creature in the dark right there. Look at that musty. It is kind of creepy because all I see is like
just floating eyes.
Yes, yeah, floating reflection right there.
I noticed that about a couple of dinosaurs. They had like glowing eyes, like the bird thing in the water.
In hindsight, looking at this, I honestly would say that this is probably, I never thought I'd say this, the worst of all the Jurassic Park movies. Like, I'm sorry for dragging you into this. It was rough because I thought it would be, I expect cheesy stuff. I like Godzilla. I like the cheesy Godzilla movies. I expect that stuff, but I guess Jurassic Park was always supposed to be a higher standard to a certain extent.
Well, every franchise dies eventually. And maybe
goes extinct.
Needs a real reboot. Yeah, good job with the extinct dinosaur footage.
Yeah, it is time for a reboot. But then again, even if they reboot it, I don't know if it would hold up with today's standards, like people's attention spans, if they want anything slow and more drawn out like the original Jurassic Park. So I don't know if we could ever hit that note.
Well, I was going to say maybe they need to tell a different story, because they kind of tried to do I haven't seen all the movies, but it seemed like they tried to do a little bit of the Star Wars thing where they brought in all the characters from the last movies, but except for they didn't kill any of them. So they attached maybe a little bit too much to nostalgia instead of trying to create a new story. I don't know what story that would be, maybe just a different perspective.
Right.
But it didn't feel like anything unique. But they could have done maybe a more down-to-earth story. But, I mean, this is all speculation.
No,
I would like to see a different story.
Right, I agree. And I was happy to see these characters and actors return, although, it's like I said, it doesn't always feel like the same characters. It feels like a hollow shell kind of the original. But to see them return regardless, I was happy about. I just wish they would have took a little more time to do this justice. Or if they're going to do a reboot, just still had those characters in there somehow for the reboot, just,
Yeah, like you can reference them,
But yeah, this is pretty much the goodbye for all those characters. I don't think they'll be back in any future installments. I did always have an idea, though, they should have done a spin-off, though, of one just called Jurassic Sea or something like that, about people stranded out at sea and they're just trying to survive, like a whole bunch of sea dinosaurs just constantly coming by them and everything. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Prehistoric Planet is going to be like. Hopefully that gives me the dinosaur feel. It's not going to give me the dinosaur thrills, but maybe it'll give me the dinosaur feels that this movie didn't give me.
I'm getting the dinosaur chills over here.
Dinosaur chills. All right, Musties. Did you see this movie yet? Are you still involved in keeping up with these Jurassic Park movies? What did you think of this one? Where would you rank it on the list? All right, giant musties,
Later.
big musties. You're supposed to say your name, big musties.